Okay, I got you. I know. This
You
is
keep
a,
looking at me.
huh?
You kept looking at me, so I wasn't sure if you knew who it was on the phone.
Yeah, I knew who it was. So this is just breaking, and this just broke this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on social media, folks. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Make It Plain, MIP. Joining us now, the communications director of the DNC, Sochi Hinojosa. Sochi, good morning. How are you?
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. I don't mean to put you on the spot at all. That's not the way I do things, but it'd be dereliction of duty. Because I'm caught off the spot. I'm just seeing this. But it'd be dereliction of duty not to at least ask you if you have seen this story that's just broken in Politico, at Politico, by Donna Brazil, um, inside Hillary Clinton's secret takeover of the DNC. And perhaps is this a excerpt? It's an excerpt from her book. That's what this is. The inside story of the break-ins and breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. Have you? What Politico has lifted up is the allegation that the Hillary Clinton campaign pretty much took over and ran the DNC. Have you all had a chance to look at this yet, Sochi?
I woke up to the news and I just saw it this morning. But and frankly I found it extremely troubling. And the reason why I found it troubling is because there should not even be a perception when you are at the DNC and you are dealing with the presidential primary process. There shouldn't even be a perception that you are taking sides, that you are that you have any sort of influence in that primary process. The role of the Democratic Party needs to be that the process frankly runs smoothly and that you try to get as many Democratic voters and your base excited to turn out in the fall and um, make preparations to make sure that like we have everything that we need in order funds and resources in order to win in the general election. But there should never be any sort of perception whatsoever that you are trying to interfere in a presidential primary process. And I think that Tom Perez has made that extremely clear. That is why, as stated in the article, there were joint fundraising agreements that were signed during the presidential primary process with state parties. We have done that early before the presidential primary process starts so that we don't have any perception and that we're building up our state parties and that money is used so that we're electing Democrats in 2018. One other thing that I want to mention before we move on to other topics is that, Tom has been very clear that we need to have a debate system that is decided before we have the presidential primary process start. And so that's something that he is committed to and that he will look at once we get through the 2018 process. But yes, but I woke up to the news just as you did this morning.
So you can, and I hear the emphasis in your voice. I guess you can say that just so we're clear and everybody knows your your role at the DNC now under the Tom Perez administration is new and totally separate and apart from anything that happened in the past with Debbie Wasserman Schultz or the Clinton campaign and what have you. Correct?
That is correct. Tom came in March of this year with an emphasis to rebuild the party. We had lost state legislative seats up and down the ballot. We had lost the presidential. The Democratic Party wasn't in a good place coming out of the November election. And so he vowed to rebuild it. And what we're seeing now is that he has a 50-state strategy, an every zip code counts strategy, where we are investing in our state parties. If you just look at Virginia, which is coming up this next Tuesday, and everybody needs to go vote, we invested $1.5 million. That is $1.5 million in a quote unquote off year. That never happens. The DNC only invests in state parties when you have a presidential primary or general election coming up in a presidential year, but we never invest in off years. And so this is an unprecedented investment because we understand how important it is to hold on to that seat and to hold on to other seats and flip seats in 2017.
I think it would be also good, Sochi, just so that we're clear about, and I know we didn't necessarily plan to get into these weeds, but I think people should understand what you talked about, joint fundraising agreements. What is the arrangement between the DNC and candidates when it comes to fundraising? Because what Donna goes through in this article is a lot of stuff about even the Obama campaign. She's kind of transparent about them too, in terms of what they did and didn't do in terms of paying the DNC back and its money. So can you explain to us how that's really supposed to work when it comes to fundraising?
Sure. I actually wasn't involved in the process, obviously, under Debbie Wasserman Schultz
Sure.
with Obama and Hillary. But what I can say is that what we've seen and what I understand, just like you, and what we read in the news and whatnot, and what frankly I've seen inside the building since I've been there, is that there wasn't a focus to build up the Democratic Party in these joint fundraising agreements to make sure that we have the funds that we need in order to be an organization that organizes 12 months a year, every single year. And so what ended up resulting is that we lost a bunch of seats. And so when these agreements were negotiated, again, I wasn't there at the time, so I don't exactly know how they were negotiated. But when agreements are negotiated, they're not necessarily taking into account the fact that the DNC needs to fundraise and needs to elect Democrats 12 months a year. That was a big thing that we've seen over the last 8 years. That has just traditionally been how the DNC has been. It's been an organization that focuses on the presidential election, and now we are changing that. That's why we have entered into agreements with state parties to make sure that we're raising the money that we need so that we can funnel that back out to state parties in order to organize and in order to win elections. And just one example is we are providing state parties with $10,000 every month starting this last month in order to make sure that we provide them with the funds that they need to elect Democrats up and down the ticket. So that's some of what we're doing that is changing. We've never started some of this work this early and in an off year, but we need to start it now because, frankly, we have too much work to do. We can't just show up during a presidential process and expect to win and talk to voters. We have to make sure that we're talking to voters year-round, every year.
866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997 4748 is the number to call. So, Sochi and Hinojosa, just one more question on this, and this is going to sound pretty elementary because I don't know. The DNC should be providing, is this the idea, financial support to state parties and candidates up and down the ballot. But then is it also incumbent upon candidates and state parties to also give a little back to the DNC as well? Is it a reciprocal relationship?
Well, that is what the joint fundraising agreement is. I think that what we're trying to do is make sure that we are raising the funds we need to funnel that back out. But then also making sure that we take care of critical operations within the DNC. One of them is technology. One thing that we learned when we walked in the door this last year was that we were not investing in our technology for quite some time, the way that others, the way we should have, frankly. And things like, we didn't have the tools we needed at the time to make sure that we are building up our technology and apps. And, for example, we just launched this app called Knock 10. So if you wanted to go and knock on doors tomorrow in Virginia, you can just pull up your phone and download from the App Store on your iPhone Knock 10. And once you download that app, you can go and it pulls up the area that you're in and the doors that you can knock on in that area. That would have never happened, right, before. But we're doing this now because in order to win, we need to make sure that we are up with our technology, that we have systems in place to protect the DNC from a future hack, and that we're in the 21st century because, frankly, that wasn't happening before. So some of that money is going to resources within the DNC to make sure that we are working every day to provide tools to our state parties to elect Democrats.
All right. So, again, I apologize. I know you didn't necessarily plan on waking up to that this morning. But again, I mean, let's be honest. It's not, you all weren't there. I confess, though, it did seem, you kind of had to have your head stuck in the sand. And I'm not even talking about the Clinton campaign. It always seemed as if the Obama operation was more independent of the DNC. That's just what was what it always looked like to me. And I didn't get upset about it and didn't judge it. But I just from our conversation, I think it's clear, and I think you've made an emphatic case. Whereas the party has to be sustained and supported as well, and it can't be absorbed by one candidate or one campaign at the expense of everybody else.
That's right. I mean, I think that one thing that we saw over the last 8 years is that, organizations like OFA and other grassroots organizations, and including, the DNC, elected a president twice. And that is amazing. And because of that, we were able to have success, legislative success. It brought us the Affordable Care Act. It brought us policies that would help working families, that would help everyday Americans. And now what we're seeing is that we're fighting to make sure that we keep some of these policies that Obama put in place. But at the same time, we neglected races up and down the ballot. And so that is the importance. And now, looking at the last 8 years, that is why we need to invest in the Ralph Northams of the world, who is running for governor of Virginia, and the election is this Tuesday. Or Phil Murphy in New Jersey, where Chris Christie's approval rating is at an all-time low, is terribly low, and his opponent and Phil Murphy's opponent there is running for his third term. Or in Seattle, we have a state legislative race that will flip the chamber from red to blue. There are legislative races all across this country, including in Virginia as well, that have redistricting implications. And we need to be thinking about that now, because the way that Republicans, part of the Republican playbook, has always been redistricting and making sure that, they find ways to disenfranchise voters. And so these are things that the Democratic Party is thinking about early and often, so that we make sure that we build a pipeline of candidates and then get those candidates to run and then win, not only in 2017, but 2018 and beyond.
All right. So again, folks, Tuesday's a big day, and Northam's the race where we really have to be concerned, right? That's tightened up a little bit more than it should have, right, Xochitl?
That race is always going to be tight. It will be tight. It'll only be tighter until Election Day. One thing that we've seen in the past is when Terry McAuliffe ran against Ken Cuccinelli, who was extremely right-wing, he won by 2 points. We knew that was going to be a close race. Before that, when Warner ran against Gillespie, Gillespie lost by less than a point. So we've always seen in off years in Virginia these races tighten up until the end, until Election Day. And so this is going to come out to turnout, what needs to happen, and what actually I'm doing and most of our staff, a majority of our staff, is doing until Election Day, will be knocking on doors and making sure that we are getting out the vote, because this really is about a ground game and seeing how many people we can turn out versus Republicans. And so if people live in Virginia and want, or have family members that live in Virginia and want to call them and tell them, go out and vote, and they don't know where their polling place location is, they should go to iwillvote.com, and iwillvote.com will tell you exactly where to go vote.
And also, what was the other app you mentioned? Knock 10?
Knock 10, yes. Download Knock 10, and you can go knock doors in your neighborhood, or if you want to travel to Virginia and knock on some doors, you can go ahead and download that app and do that there.
So that's very important. Now, is there also a place to go? Sometimes you all provide call lists. So if I want to get a call list and get some 10 or 20 phone numbers to call, there's a way to do that also, right?
Yes, there is. And you can go ahead and either contact us directly or go to the local party to provide you with call lists. You can go to Democrats.org. When you're on Democrats.org, there are ways to get involved in Virginia. You can make calls from your own home, and we are trying to make sure that we get as many people to volunteer from now until Tuesday, and especially on Tuesday as well, because that is when, voters are coming out to vote, and we need to make sure that we're getting as many people out.
866-99-SIRIUS, Xochitl Hinojosa, Communications Director for the DNC. I love to say her name too, y'all. It probably sounds like that. Pleasure to have you. Talk to us about New Jersey. How are we looking there? I don't want to take anything for granted.
New Jersey is a state where you have Chris Christie,
because somebody else,
a terrible governor there. His approval rating is the lowest of any governor, and you have Phil Murphy, who is running for that seat. While Democrats look good and are poised to win in New Jersey, the same applies there. We need to make sure that we are turning everybody out, and not only turning everybody out for Phil Murphy, but people up and down the ballot. We are poised to have our first African-American woman lieutenant governor there, and we need to make sure that we get everybody elected as well down ballot, because again, these elections have redistricting implications. So don't just go and vote for the top of the ticket, but vote all the way down.
So are there anything in terms of Murphy's race that people can do to get involved? Volunteer apps or anything like that apply in New Jersey?
Yes, you should also go to iwillvote.com. Make sure that you're putting this on your social media if you are on Facebook and Twitter, to remind your loved ones and friends to go out and vote. And Knock 10 as well will help in this area. And go to Democrats.org, and there are ways there to make calls into Virginia. We also have a number of mayor's races that a lot of people forget about our mayor's races, but they're critical to making sure that local economies are striving and are thriving. And so we have mayor's races in Syracuse, and all across the country that we're wanting to make sure that people go out and vote.
All right, because that is important, the down ballot races, folks. We want to be sure that we go out and vote, not only for these big seats, so-called seats, but also some of the down ballot races, mayor's races as well. Do we have some state, I presume, some state legislative races as well, right?
We sure do. And in Seattle, that is one of them. One of the races that we've been looking at in Seattle, which is actually a blue state, but you would think it is completely blue, but it is not. They are one seat away in Seattle from turning the entire chamber from red to blue. So we have a race out there that we are keeping our eye on, and that we're going to make sure that we've invested in, but we're making sure we're working with all of the progressive ecosystem and organizations out in Seattle to make sure that we turn that seat from red to blue. And so election night will be interesting. We do have our top two races, which are in Virginia and New Jersey, but we're going to be keeping our eye on races down ballot in Virginia, down ballot in New Jersey, places like New Mexico, Florida, New York, obviously Washington State, and all of these areas. We need to make sure that we are picking up state legislative seats and voting for Democrats and turning as many Democrats as we can as possible, because these do have redistricting implications as we look forward to the census that's coming up.
Tuesday's the big day, folks. Redistricting implications, these gubernatorial races. When we won both Virginia and New Jersey in 2005, Democrats won the House back the next year in 2006. So this could be a bellwether, folks who want to get involved. Xochitl, and then this article comes out this morning. Xochitl spoke forthrightly to us about that. I appreciate that. I don't envy your job. And but we will see. And that's an excerpt from Donna's book. We tweeted that story. But we're moving forward, folks. We can't get caught up in that. And even with all of that, we still won in November of 2016. Let's not forget that. So, Xochitl, let me trouble you just one more time, because I want people to get this. Folks, have pen and paper ready. Xochitl, starting with Virginia, walk us through again the websites and apps and the things people to do to get involved. First Virginia and then New Jersey, if you would, please.
Of course. So for all of the races that are up and down the ballot, and anywhere from Virginia, pretty much any state that has an election, which is basically all of them, go to iwillvote.com. iwillvote.com if you want to go ahead and find your polling location to come out and vote on Tuesday. Make sure that you are telling your family members and friends about iwillvote.com. Also, if you go to your apps on your iPhone or Android, make sure that you are downloading Knock 10, which is a app that you can go in your neighborhoods and knock on doors ahead of Election Day if you want to get involved. We need all the help that we can get over the next few days because this is all about turnout. Again, go to iwillvote.com to find your polling location.
All right. Xochitl Hinojosa, Communications Director for the DNC. Thank you, Xochitl. We're going to continue to get this out there. Folks, this video is out there. Share with friends on social media, on Twitter, Make It Plain. Facebook, MIP, Make It Plain. YouTube, Make It Plain. Xochitl's voice. Also her response to the Politico article. That's her response. I said, we don't even dwell on it. Let's move on to the next thing, okay? Because if we get caught up in stuff, doesn't matter. We've got Tuesday to deal with. So don't get distracted in all that other stuff and whatnot. Donna's book is fine. We love Donna. Donna will be in with us next week, as a matter of fact. But we've got to win this election Tuesday. We cannot defeat ourselves. iwillvote.com, the Knock 10 app. Xochitl, as always, we appreciate you, okay? And we're going to continue to beat this drum. Okay, wonderful.
Of course.
All right, take care now. All right, folks, wow. 27 minutes before the hour. This is your wake-up call. Be more purposeful about how you use your money. Build black, buy black, and bank black to build wealth in the black community. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year, but those dollars don't circulate in the community. There needs to be a sense of urgency to improve the economy. The bank black, and buy the block movements are so important, including purchasing and holding on to real estate in the community. Pay attention to where and how you spend, and remember to save and invest your money by moving your money to One United Bank, the largest black-owned and first black internet bank in America, and an FDIC member. You join the Bank Black movement using your Mona, Amir, or Lady Liberty Visa debit cards with their powerful, proud images celebrating blackness. Shows the world that black money matters. Just go to oneunited.com. That's oneunited.com. Open an account and get your Visa debit card so you can bank black, buy black, and build black today. We'll be back on SiriusXM Progress 127, Resistance Radio. Get woke. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.